Pyramid scheme in itself is a bad thing, or is it just the perspective of looking at it?
Yeah, pyramid scheme, I think by definition, is transaction between individuals with no service or product that is exchanged. A real pyramid scheme are bad. They're negative, they're scams, they're Ponzi schemes. You heard it all the time. And there's probably some MLMs that are actual pyramid schemes. Just like there are bad businesses and bad companies, there are bad MLMs. But at least in my experience, the ones that I was a part of were legitimate companies that had products, that had services. When you're putting people on a pedestal, your belief goes down that you can accomplish it because you think they're doing something special or they are special, which 99% of the time is not the case.
So how do you view money?
I look at it like oxygen. It's not the most important thing in the world, but it is up there. It's also, when you have money, you don't think about it that much. But when you don't have it, it's the only thing you can think about, like oxygen.
What's up, risk takers? Welcome back to the Double Down Podcast, and I'm your host, DeAndre Woodson. And if you're ready to stop playing small and start building the empire that you were meant for, you're in exactly the right place. Before we dive into today's game-changing episode, do me a quick favor. If you're listening on audio right now, smash that follow button and leave me a 5-star rating. It literally takes 3 seconds, and it helps reach more entrepreneurs that are just like you who are ready to level up. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss the strategies that could change your entire life. Today, we're talking about multi-level marketing, and I promise you, this isn't your typical podcast. Joining us, Stephen Cohen, the dynamic entrepreneur behind a rapidly growing solar company that recently made waves by being acquired by publicly traded S-Power. As the host of Millennial Millionaire Podcast, Stephen has interviewed top industry leaders, sharing invaluable insights and inspiring countless young entrepreneurs. So buckle up and lock in. We're about to double down on your success. Let's get into it. I want to jump right into it. Can you please describe and break down what is MLM?
Yeah, multi-level marketing. It's been a while since I've been in the MLM game or had conversations about it, but I credit a lot of who I am today from my time in network marketing, affiliate marketing. There's probably a lot of different names. I used to call it MLM, multi-level marketing. So essentially what it is it's a business model where the average person can hop into it, get a part of a company. A lot of people are probably familiar with Amway or Herbalife, some of the bigger ones that are still around till this day, massive organizations. And an affiliate or a agent or whatever you call them can join, get access to their product. So sometimes it's a physical product like energy drinks or health and wellness, or it could be a service, and basically share that product via word of mouth. So instead of companies spending tons of money on shelves and advertisement and storefronts, they essentially redistribute those marketing and advertisement dollars to a affiliate to essentially share their products word of mouth.
I understand it. I absolutely love it. I feel like there's a lot of people that I come in contact with that have this buzzword of pyramid scheme, right? Do you feel like pyramid scheme in itself is a bad thing, or is it just the perspective of looking at it for the individual, right?
Yeah, pyramid scheme, I think by definition, is a transaction between individuals with no service or product that is exchanged. So pyramid scheme, a real pyramid scheme are bad. They're negative, they're scams, they're Ponzi schemes. You heard it all the time. You hear about it in the news sometimes. Some of these crypto pump and dumps, I imagine, could be classified as different pyramid schemes. And there's probably some MLMs that are actual pyramid schemes, just like there are bad businesses and bad companies. There are bad MLMs. But at least in my experience, I haven't done network marketing since 2012 or 2013. The ones that I was a part of were legitimate companies that had products, that had services. I think a lot of people get stuck on the word pyramid scheme because of the whole recruiting, building aspect of things. Right. But in reality, it's funny. It's been a while since I've had to defend an MLM pyramid scheme. That was my talk tracks, over a decade ago. But it's funny because, someone working a 9-to-5 corporate American job, nothing wrong with that, would call an MLM a pyramid scheme. And it's funny to hear because it's like, what really is a pyramid scheme? Well, the legitimate version of a pyramid scheme is illegal and they're fraud. But what most people think a pyramid scheme is all the people at the top are making the money and the bottom people don't make anything. Right. Well, if you look at most of corporate America and you look at your job, your owner, the CEO, the executives are usually the ones making the high salaries, the high income, where the new up and coming person is usually not making much money. So if you break down any type of organization, they actually look like pyramids. Are they pyramid schemes? Usually not, unless there is no tangible service or product being exchanged.
I honestly hope that everybody here or that's watching this, however they're consuming this information, takes that with a grain of salt. And you're not saying that being a 9 to 5 worker is a bad thing. Obviously, we need them, right? Everyone at one point in time was one. But looking at your company from taking a step back, right? You could label anything as a pyramid scheme. So that negative connotation of building a business and having people working underneath you and you making a percentage off of them, it's not a bad thing. Pyramid scheme, to me, it's always been something that's irked me because I also was in direct sales and network marketing. So for me, it's how I got my foot in the game, and it's how I feel like I got my social skills, to be honest. So when I hear people talk negatively about it, I'm just like, it's just because you're afraid to do it.
100%. And recruiting, a lot of people, when they look at the word recruiting, they think it's something negative because they associate that with MLM or I need something from that individual. But in reality, if you can zoom out a little bit, all of the most affluent organizations in the world, they recruit. Yep. You know, the U.S. military, they recruit. Ivy League colleges recruit. Religions recruit. All these organizations recruit. And what is recruiting at its core? It's expanding the vision of the organization to attract like-minded individuals to get to the cause. Absolutely. So I think people need to recondition their mind. I don't think it's as prevalent now that people are a little bit more skeptical. I think 10 years ago, if you were doing MLM, you were considered weird or, fraudster or whatever. I think now, fast forward in 2025, there's so many different opportunities and people can now get access and visibility to people that are building businesses or building ventures that are outside the traditional go to school, get good grades, work a job for 40 years of your life. So I think it's a lot more welcome now. But to your point, if you are projecting fraud out to a legitimate opportunity, chances are it's because you're insecure and somehow, some way you're coping with your inability to do something different than what your mom or your dad or what your school teacher taught you.
I want to kind of put a pause here, put the pin in this. I just honestly got overly excited because I couldn't wait to talk to you, dude. I'm so sorry. Allow yourself to introduce yourself to the audience and speak a little bit about your background, brother.
Yeah, of course, man. So Stephen Cohen, 32 years old, out here in the 702. Grew up pretty humble backgrounds, only child. Parents came from New York to Las Vegas, so I grew up here. So middle school, high school, a year of college. During college, I realized that I was going to school just to go to school. I didn't really have a vision. Both my parents combined made $40,000 a year. My mom was a elementary school teacher. My dad was a security guard. So I didn't really come from a environment where I saw people winning on a financial standpoint. Had a ton of love in my household, which I think is more valuable than anything else. But when I got into being an adult, I was going to college out here in Vegas, 702. It's pretty easy to get lost in the sauce. I did a fraternity because I bought into the idea that college is supposed to be the best 4 years of your life. In reality, it's not. It's just a starting point. So I dropped out of college, got introduced to MLM. That was my first exposure to entrepreneurship as well, and did that for 3 years. Didn't make a crazy amount of money, but I learned a ton about sales, entrepreneurship, public speaking, communication, started reading books, started to reframe the way that I looked at the world. And in 2015, I got introduced to the solar industry, door-to-door direct sales. So a bit different than MLM, but I was able to take a lot of the skills from that experience and put it into door-to-door. Did pretty well. About 5 years ago now, we launched our own company. Congrats. And the rest is history, dude. You know, we just got acquired a couple weeks ago, which you mentioned in the intro, which is super cool. But yeah, it's been a cool ride, just traveling around, helping independent contractors, young at heart or, older guys, whatever, any range, just giving them the platform, the vehicle to transform their life through the direct sales industry, which it's funny because direct sales, no one calls direct sales a scam because, you're knocking on doors selling solar. I mean, some people may call solar a scam, but they're just uneducated. But it's really the same thing. You are a 100% commission, 1099 performance based. And that's really where I shifted my mindset when it came to business. I never wanted to be in a situation where someone else was dictating my worth. I always wanted to be in a situation where I had full control over my destiny. Right. not just from an income standpoint, but from a time and flexibility standpoint. Because one thing that network marketing really ingrained into me is you only have one life. And if you trade your life for someone else that doesn't value your life as much as you do, then chances are you're not going to be able to live life to the fullest. You're not going to be able to go to all your son's baseball games. You're not going to be able to give your mom that retirement that she deserves. You're not going to be able to do certain things because you took the easy route instead of doing something that is a little bit harder at first, but then makes your life easier.
You ready to turn your dreams into a reality? At Deviant Consultations, we're here to guide you, complete white glove service every step of the way. Whether you're starting your credit repair journey or you're looking to get business funding, we've got your back. Go ahead and screenshot or click the QR code below and schedule your discovery call with the team. Let's make your dreams come true together. While you were speaking, I remember seeing something from Daniel G where he was talking about, is sales fair, right? And he was talking about if you take two employees, one is strictly based off of commission and one gets paid every single week. The first week, let's say the normal 9-to-5 person, he gets paid $1,000. The sales guy who's on commission gets paid nothing. They work the exact same amount of time. Does it seem fair? No, it doesn't seem fair. We continue on for week 2, the exact same thing happens, right? Week 3, the exact same thing happens. So far, employee 1, the 9-to-5 guy, he's made $3,000. This guy's made 0. But week 4, this guy makes 1 sale and he's made $25,000, and this guy just takes us regular $1,000 home. So is it fair? This guy's made $25,000 and now he's made $4,000. In the grand scheme of things, nothing is ever fair. You know what I mean? So direct sales, to me, same situation that you were in. I grew up in it, and I got my foot, like I said, I got my foot in the door where I was recruited by a company who went out to go do sales for other companies to expand their business. So every single morning we'd meet in this room, we'd hype each other up. We'd get like these pamphlets of what did we have to go sell today. And I was kind of always in front of people, and they always dropped me off on like a school campus or a hospital. And I remember walking like the hospital of UCLA, selling that I worked at a beauty and spa. And I understood what I need to do is sell one of these things, but to 2 different people at the exact same time, right? So I would sell one massage, saying, if you guys do this in a group setting, you know what I mean? You can actually knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. So I was really pushing to like, guys, do this for your wife. Allow your wife to go with her best friend. Allow yourself to have a Sunday football all to yourself with you and your boys, right? So to me, I understood and I respect and appreciate direct sales, face-to-face contact. And it taught me so much at such a young age of getting over the fear of talking to strangers, right? Getting over rejection. Because it happens such at a rapid speed, but when one door closes, I have to literally still go make this sale in this door. I couldn't sit there, sulk, wait. Sometimes that I take a minute, go have lunch, right? Go back at it. Absolutely. But I remember when I started my own entrepreneurial journey and started my own business, I was a dog compared to everyone else that I met because I already took so many licks on the front end. You know what I mean? So listening to your story, I was like, oh, this guy is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, a mentor told me once, he said, all direct sales it's a massive personal development program with a compensation plan attached to it.
Ooh.
You know, the more you grow, the more you go through it, the more you learn about yourself, the more you deal with your own inner demons and your own insecurities, because that's what it's going to do. You know, door to door, direct sales, whether it's phone calls or face to face, it's one of the rawest forms of sales. And you're faced every single day to look at yourself in the mirror and decide, am I going to go work today? Am I going to stay in integrity? How am I going to show up when I get those licks? How am I going to respond to it? Am I going to get a big check and then take my foot off the gas? And it really is you versus you, which I feel like it really does develop people. So wherever they end up going in life, I hope you take those skills with you and it serves at a higher level.
Can we touch back on your direct sales experience of going door to door, starting off in solar? Like, how did you make the transition of being the one knocking to now starting your own?
So when I started solar in 2015, I was broke, busted, and disgusted. I did network marketing for 3 years, and I felt I've grown so much as an individual, but my bank account didn't reflect that. So it was still the battle of all this knowledge, information, all this process that I went to become a better individual, but my physical reality wasn't reflecting any of it. So I remember just being super open-minded. A buddy told me about this door-to-door thing. And I just hopped into it. I didn't know anything about solar. This was before, everyone and their mom owned a solar company. And I just remember just being super coachable, and it was me against me. Door to door was really one of the hardest things I've ever had to overcome in my life, because it's challenging. It's difficult getting outside of yourself, having the humility to go for hours and just getting pooped on by people, dealing with angry people. And it was challenging, but eventually figured it out. You trust the process. And started doing pretty well. I think around month 4, I made my biggest check ever, which was $10,000. That was always my goal. I wanted to make $100,000 a year. I thought that would change my life and retire my parents. Little did I know at the time it wasn't that much money, but you have to hit those benchmarks. And eventually I started selling well, and then I started building a team. One of the things I took away from network marketing was it's better to have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of your own efforts. And I knew that if I could figure out this door-to-door thing, and I could really actually create value in the opportunity and prove to myself that I can get results, then I could help other people get results as well. So I started to share the message, share my success on social media. This is when Instagram just started popping off back in 2015, and other people, like-minded people, started to attract to the opportunity. So I quickly went from broke, not having much confidence, not having much self-esteem in terms of my professional life, to then being responsible for a 20-man team in this new solar venture. And then the Vegas market got shut down in 2015 for those that kind of understood what happened in solar back then. So then I went on about a 2.5-year hiatus to Colorado, NorCal, and SoCal, building solar sales teams basically across the West Coast. And the interesting thing, DeAndre, about that was I was 22 or 23 years old when all this was happening. I was still living with my parents at the time. So I was still very sheltered. I still felt like I didn't really fully become the man that I knew that I needed to be. So getting away from my comfort zone, getting away from my environment, you moved here 8 years ago, but I think it's so important from a young age to get away from your environment, so then you could start to rebuild your identity. You start to discover who you really are, because when you're in the same environment, you have the same friends, the same life, people view you the same, you have the same self-image. So it wasn't until I got out of that and really grew up for that 2.5 years of building sales teams, but also living by myself, being responsible for not just me, but other people. And then I came back to Vegas in 2018, and I was a completely different person. So to answer your question, it was getting results myself in the marketplace, proving to myself that I can do it, and then simply just broadcasting the success and sharing the plan, sharing the message, and other people attracted to it as well.
The way that you think is inspiring, and I want to give you all the flowers in the world to not only being able to train your own mind like that, but I'm sure as you brought on people underneath you, right, they need to be able to also not only see it to believe it, but they have to feel it. So you have to be able to have a skill of communication. Did you develop that through door-to-door sales? Was that you working on yourself? Like you did say earlier, like you're really big into reading, or did you have a mentor along the way to teach you these things? Or was it all just turn on the camera and let me work this out in real time on social media?
The funny part, growing up, really probably up until maybe sophomore year of high school, I was extremely shy, extremely introvert, extremely walk into a room and worry what everyone else is thinking about you instead of the opposite. And my mom used to introduce me as the shy kid. And now you fast forward and you're like, well, that didn't help, right? Typically, when you're conditioned from a young age, you bring those habits and beliefs as you get older, unless you address them. But it's interesting because I heard Ed Milet said this once. Typically, the people that you see today, and you see how charismatic they are, or how confident they are, how good of a speaker, communicator, salesperson they are, chances are they didn't grow up like that. So they had to put that intentional work in to get better at it. Wow. Versus the naturally talented person that was always charismatic, they didn't have to put the same level of effort into developing those skills. And as we know, DeAndre, right, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. 100%. So I'm a product of not wanting to be a certain way and really putting intentionality, becoming uncomfortable, getting in front of the room, always trying to put myself in situations to improve my communication skills, not knowing that it would lead me to a career and a business that would literally rely on the ability to lead, communicate, persuade, influence. And another thing was in high school, I always had a really good knack for bringing people together. And it's interesting because a lot of the gifts that we're naturally born with, sometimes we don't realize them until someone else brings them up and highlights them to make you think, oh, actually, I am really good at that. Oh, actually, now I have awareness that that is something that I feel like I've always had a knack for. And I always had the ability to bring different groups together back in high school. Back then it was partying.
Yeah.
So I think as I grew older, the combination of really wanting to become someone that can communicate and that has confidence, and that person that walks into a room and cares less about what other people are thinking about them and more about what they're thinking about everyone else, and just the natural gift of being able to bring people together was the perfect marriage that helped me in my sales career.
And as you were speaking, it's funny because I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I always try to just breathe in life to her as much as I humanly possibly can. And me and my wife are polar opposites. She's super quiet and will always let me go in first. You know what I mean? But I honestly need her for that specific reason of I don't have to compete, but I also can like do my normal everyday thing. And she thinks it's this amazing superpower. So she fills my cup up just like in my eyes praising me, but she's just saying like, these are things and talents that you have that I wish I could have. So it's to her, she's like glorifying me, but it's just her reflection of me, and it fills my cup all the time. So I love like when she talks about me, but to me, it's me being normal. But my daughter is picking it up, and she could talk to literally a rock dude, and then an 80-year-old person at the park, and then a 5-year-old. And I'm like, keep it up, babe. You know what I mean? Just any and everyone, just tell them your first name, your last name, have a conversation as much as you possibly can, because I know being able to communicate, especially in the era, in the world that we're in, it's going to be, and it unlocks so many more doors for her. So it's funny that your mom called you the shy kid, and that actually became the thing that you were trying to flip on its head and look at you today. So shout out to mom. Thank you.
Shout out to mom, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I want to go back into the solar world because I'm so interested in this, because I know this sector is so heavily regulated. How do you expand, or how did you overcome so many of the regulations to be able to even have your company purchased and acquired from to a publicly traded company? Like, that's a huge feat and accomplishment in itself. And I know I talked about it at the beginning, but I don't want to gloss over it. Like, this is a big deal because the sector is super regulated.
Yeah, solar is crazy.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm grateful because I didn't know anything about solar in 2015. I just knew that it was a high ticket item. They cost a lot of money. They go on the roof and somehow they convert. I just didn't really care. I just knew I needed a vehicle to get me where I wanted to go, which was the time freedom and some financial flexibility and all the things. So solar's evolved. You know, solar today is way different than solar in 2015. But I think really the keys to take away is most industries change, and most industries have resistance, and most industries have peaks and valleys. So being adaptable has always been a really valuable skill. I forget the exact author of the quote, but success isn't determined by how good you are, how good looking you are, or it's just your ability to adapt and survive and outlast everyone else. And that's really always been my mindset. You know, Simon Sinek is someone that I watch a lot of his content, and he talks about game theory. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but
Absolutely.
Game theory, there's two types of games and game theories. You have the finite game and you have the infinite game. You know, a finite game is baseball. You know exactly what the terms are, you know the rules, you know when the game's over, you know who the players are, and you understand the thesis of it. A infinite game is a lot different. You don't know who the players are, you don't know what the rules are, and really the only purpose of the infinite game is to continue to keep the game going until the players either run out of the will to play or run out of the resources and they end up quitting. So I've always kind of unconsciously took the infinite mindset where I don't need to win this specific battle. I don't always need to win this recruiting battle. We're going to take L's. There's going to be market shutdowns. There's going to be things that change that are outside of our control, that aren't great in the short term and maybe not great in the long term. But as long as we can focus on what we can control and be adaptable and change, as long as we outlast everyone else, we'll be the last one standing. And that's always kind of been the mindset. The second thing here is understanding your strengths. So I knew from a really early age that my strengths were team building, recruiting, pouring into people, sales, growth. That has been my domain of expertise over the last 13 years, really, of my professional career. I've been doing this since I was 22 years old. So my whole career, I've had 2 jobs. My whole career really has been this space of direct sales. I could have easily, during my 10-year solar career, left my business partners and wanted to be the CEO or wanted to run my own company or wanted to be the ego. In my company, dude, there's 6 founders. 2 are majority owners, and then we're minority owners. So there were plenty of opportunities during my 10 years that I could have followed my ego and said, I can do this better than y'all. Peace. Let me go start my thing. But I realized I didn't want to wear that hat. I wanted to focus on what I was good at, adding massive value in my space, not adding all these extra pieces on top. Trust my partners that they knew how to navigate the ship. And they ended up navigating us to one of the biggest sales in solar, right? I think this is, don't quote me, but we are the biggest solar sales company acquisition in the history of solar. Yep. There's been publicly traded companies that bought other publicly traded companies, but public to private, like we're one of the biggest. And that wouldn't have happened if people didn't understand their role, if people didn't have enough humility to focus on what they felt like they were good at, and trusting other partners in order to navigate the ship that have more expertise in those areas. So the point I'm trying to get across for the viewers is you don't always have to be the guy.
There we go.
You don't always have to be the CEO. In today's age, everyone's so focused on titles and all these things. Like, you can plug in with the right people, focus on what you're great at, have self-awareness, and still be able to get massive, massive success in the process. The crazy thing is you're going to be happier. Your quality of life is going to be better. And you're going to be able to focus on the things you actually enjoy doing, not just wearing all these different hats because you're the guy.
I agree with it down to the absolute infinite T, because just take this in for instance, right? We're the ones having the conversation here, but there's so many moving pieces behind this that the audience doesn't get to see. And I'll be honest, I don't look that great, but my team makes me look amazing.
Come on.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, being able to have a wherewithal and the foresight of like, these are my strengths. These are your strengths. These are your strengths. Let's combine all of our superpowers together and just crush it is a power inside of itself. And I think people are really struggling with, I want to do it all. And I think it's because of like the influencer, you know, and if you really got to sit down with like your favorite influencer and you actually ask them, what do they do? You would be completely shocked because they outsource everything. They do nothing. And people, I don't think, understand that. So thank you for explaining that. And I wanted to touch on, while I was getting ready for our episode, I found out I think you are the first privately held company that was purchased to publicly. Can you explain, like, what is the benefits there for now being acquired by a publicly traded company?
We've been reached out to over the last 2-3 years, really, to have some potential acquisitions, but that none of them really make sense. The financial capital was there, but from a strategic standpoint, it didn't really make sense. So really, dude, one of the benefits is like we've done well over the last 6 years in business. You know, we started with a kilowatt and a dream, some would say.
That's awesome.
And, you know, we've been able to scale to 800 sales reps in 42 states, all 1099, 100% commission. You know, at HQ pre-acquisition, we only had like 14 salary employees. The rest were like in the field growing. So the fact that we're able to grow as big as we did with as little resources and as nimble as we did, because our vision, dude, was always to be very nimble and to run this business model in a way. To your point, solar is very crazy. Yep. There's been so many companies that have gone out of business in the last 2 years, or I know so many sales bros that are now doing life insurance and all these other companies, because when things are great, it's easy to look good. It's easy to be happy. It's easy to be optimistic. But when things change that are outside of your control, macroeconomics, new legislation, interest rates, it's not as easy. It's not as easy to show everyone how good you are. And a lot of people, again, back to the infinite mindset versus the finite mindset, a lot of people quit during that time. So we made it a point to be able to set our business up in a way where, hey, things are great right now, but when things aren't great, we'll still be nimble, we'll still be flexible. We can continue to add value and be a great place for solar salespeople to work and be able to go through the peaks and valleys of this industry because we're not so bloated at the top. We don't have all this overhead. We don't have all these trucks and fixed cost and salary, because that's when people get in trouble in our space. You know, you scale really big because you have the volume, because things are great. You lose the volume, you can't scale down quick enough, and then you end up going out of business. There's a great quote that it says, more companies die from indigestion versus starvation.
Absolutely.
Which means most people, it's not that they don't have the sales or the volume or they can't grow. It's because they grow too quick and then they can't scale up and they end up falling apart.
Yep.
So the benefits for us now, dude, is obviously we have a lot more backing financially, right? We're connected now to a publicly traded company that can go raise money on Wall Street, raise the public markets. We have the ability to offer our guys stock options now, which is huge. You know, wealth isn't created in earned income. It's created in income that has the ability to multiply and leverage. And now we just have a bigger brand, dude. SunPower is one of the OG companies in the space. They've been around since the 90s. So now we're able to go in there and obviously give a brand that a lot more people are aware of, have the backing of a publicly traded company as we continue to scale and navigate this uncertain terrain, and really be able to give our key leaders longevity in the upside of the company.
Do you find it now easier, like more people want to just naturally come to you organically now instead of you going out and trying to like build Sunder? Is it easier for you now?
I would say definitely the recruiting has been a lot easier because we have a lot more value props to add. We're still figuring out kind of the integration. This stuff takes time, which again is above my pay scale, which I'm grateful for. I don't want to be the one in the legal with the logistics and the contracts and all these things. I just focus on my lane and continue to do. But the recruiting meetings have been a lot easier recently.
Yeah. While we're sitting down here and talking, man, not only has I seen your transition, but I've also seen your progression in the levels and the seasons that you're in as you've gotten older. You've also turned now your ability to communicate and empower and bring teams together as like another income stream where now you're a keynote speaker. How have you been able to do that? And where did you tell yourself it was okay for you to do so? Or like, where was that turning point in your life where you're like, it's okay for me to also add on this. I'm not only this.
Back to the network marketing season of my life, that's really all it was. It was home events. It was getting people in a room. At the time, it was like 22, 23 years old. It's really probably like 18, 19-year-olds, and pitching a product and pitching the dream and pitching the vision of what they can be if you end up joining this organization, dude. So I got really good at public speaking, which, again, wasn't something that I ever felt like I would desire to be good at or had the ability to be good at. But again, I always had the mindset, hey, I want to get better. Let me put myself in these uncomfortable situations. So I kid you not, for probably 2 years straight, we ran 2 to 3 home events a week. It didn't matter if there was 20 people in a room or one person in a room. We would treat it like it was 2,000 people in a room. Right. And I got really good at being able to curate a message, cast vision, understand unconscious patterns, and being able to share a story or a mission or a vision in front of a lot of people. And that just translated over to door-to-door and direct sales. Like, my ability to run meetings has been a really big reason why I've been able to excel. You know, when speaking is such a powerful tool, I would say public speaking, that skill set, because it is a skill set that can only be learned with hours and hours and hours of working on it, that has been able to take me way further than probably any other skill set in my direct sales. Because if you can get in front of a room of people and inspire them and persuade them, it's something that not a lot of people can do or are willing to do. You know, I think it's like the number one fear for most people above death, which is kind of crazy. Yeah. And if you're able to do something that other people aren't willing to do or that they can't do, you become valuable. You become more of a asset to that company or that organization, and therefore value follows dollars. Dollars follows value. So the keynote speaking was kind of a natural, organic evolution from my last 13 years of doing it in the space to now it's like I've gotten really good at it. I really enjoy it. It's one of the things I would probably do for free, and that's usually a sign that you should follow your passion a little bit. So now I'm like, well, if I had done so well with it within my ecosystem of direct sales, like let me take it outside of direct sales and see where it takes me. It's the closest thing to feeling like a rock star.
Absolutely.
I'm no musician. I'm not very talented. I'm never going to be in the NBA or MLB or anything like that. So the ability to curate my speaking skills, I think, will take me places that hopefully I can't even think of right now.
100%. And I just want to ask, so because I'm very, very inquisitive as I'm speaking with my guests, and that's something that I've learned as I've been doing this podcasting thing is I always want to try to take one or two or three things I can from my guests and then try to implement it into my own life. But I'm interested when you said, was it just your own foresight to challenge yourself to do these home conversations and treat it like there's 2,000 people there? Or was there like a mentor or a catalyst behind you saying like, there's something here, you're naturally good at this, or we can take this somewhere else because nobody else is doing this?
I think it was just being coachable, dude. At the time, there was people that had the results I want. There was someone making, a 21-year-old making $30,000 a month from his smartphone, which was not really anything that was possible at the time. That was before TikTok. It was before the influencer world and social media. So I remember seeing that, and I was like, what is this guy doing?
Right.
And I just do what he did. So many people, they try and reinvent the wheel. If you do what people do and you say what they say, you're going to get what they get every single time. And that's all I was. I was a student. I was coachable. I had a lot of humility. I realized I wasn't shit at the time, and I wanted to be someone that was actually worth something. So I just found someone who I would trade lives with at that time, who I felt like had the values that I had and that had way more business acumen and success than I did. And I just did what he did, and I just followed the system. And I also learned, and this was more of an unconscious thing, that you need to follow people that have the results you want. This is something that I try and teach people all the time. We're being influenced 24/7 every single day, whether it's from our smartphone, whether it's from the news, whether it's from social media, our friends, our family, our coworkers. We're being influenced, conditioned 24/7, especially now. We're getting bombarded. You can't even be alone in your house without getting propaganda and certain conditioning to your phone. So you need to be very mindful of who you're getting information from and who you're listening to, because things aren't taught, they're caught a lot of times. And whether you're consciously digesting it or unconsciously, it's influencing your worldview. So I realized, okay, I need to find people that have the results I want. At the time, it was really business focused because that was really the desire. I need to make more money, because when I make more money, everything else becomes a little bit easier. And I just did that. Okay, this guy has the results I want. He's not unhappy. He's not divorced. He's making great money. Like, let me listen to him and not let me listen to my broke fraternity brother who's telling me that this is a scam and I should go get a real job. Right. And if you can extrapolate that into today's world, it's like, who are you taking advice from? Who is in your ear? Who are you allowing to influence your worldview and your perception on things and perspective? And you need to monitor that very importantly, because input typically creates output. Whatever is coming in your psyche is typically the results you're getting in the marketplace. And I just realized that from a young age, even in college. So part of the reason I dropped out, I was like, hey, business professor teaching me how to make a business, making $60,000 a year, bless his heart, he can't teach me to do something that he's not doing himself. So let me take my formal education and take a step back and let me focus on self-education, because the people I'm listening to actually have the results in the real world that I want.
I heard there's something in there that I want to ask you about. So you said making more money makes life easier. Most people, that probably just went over their head because you said it so quickly. But when I hear that, I wanted to ask you, how do you view money? Because it wasn't like, oh, I get to have and buy flashy things and be a baller, because you're still at a really young age, right? You said makes life easier. That's really important. And that's a different mindset at such a young age. So how do you view money?
I look at it like oxygen. It's not the most important thing in the world, but it is up there with very important things. And it's also, when you have money, you don't think about it that much. Life becomes a little bit freer from the monetary binds of your psyche. But when you don't have it, it's the only thing you can think about, like oxygen. When we're breathing, we take it for granted. We don't really think about it much. Life goes on. When you don't have oxygen, it's the only thing that you care about. I think money is like that. I also think money is a tool. It's a magnifier. I'm sure your audience has heard this before. If you're a good person, you have more money, you're going to become a better person. If you're an evil person or a negative person or a sad person, it's just going to amplify whoever you are. And it's funny because you hear this all the time, money won't make you happy, or money doesn't grow on trees, or like rich people are evil. And it's like, that's just all conditioning of poor people. Yep. That's what I used to believe. My parents used to believe, hey, if you're rich, then you have to steal that, or you have to screw other people, or that stuff isn't for us, that's just for other people. And it's like, if you continue to allow that stuff to mold your money blueprint, you're going to continue to be poor and be broke and be in a situation where you don't have resources. So for me, dude, it's allowed me to do amazing things. I've been able to retire my parents. I've been able to travel the world. I believe, and this is just me personally, I believe the more money I make, the better person I become. The better person I become, the more money I make. Not everyone's like that. I have a lot of people that I know that make a lot of money and they're still not healthy. They still have poor relationships. They're still unfulfilled, but it's an inner game at that point. Yep. So it's a resource, and I think everyone should have the desire to have the ability to live life on their terms. And unfortunately, in 2025, unless you're going to move to Peru and meditate on a mountaintop for 3 days, you need fiscal money in order to have options.
Yeah, dude. I knew this one was going to be very powerful, and if it wasn't for the viewers and the audience, this is for me. So I appreciate you so much, dude. I look at money the exact same way. The more money that I make, the more people I get to help, the more I literally get a giveaway. And that's just the way I was raised. That's also giving back to the church and just tithing. So the more money that I come into, the more people I get to bless with it. And it always comes back to me tenfold. And it helped me also with the exact same mindset working in my company. Once I learned that I can help people fix their credit, the more people I got to help, right? They were the direct reflection, and they went out and they went to go tell their friends and family, this guy got me here. So they just came to me. It was literally like, the more you give, I mean, it sounds cliche, the more that you give, the more that you get, but I'm a living testament of it. So hearing you say that, and the audience, hopefully they pick it up, or maybe it goes in one ear and out the other, and they'll just be stuck like that forever, and it's a bummer. But
yeah, and just to piggyback on that, money is energy, just like everything else. Just like this couch is energy, this microphone is energy. It's energy vibrating at a different frequency.
Right.
I don't want to go too deep, but you picking up and putting down.
Yep.
So the more that you allow money to come to you, and the more freely you spend money, and the more you give, giving has a very high potency energy to it. You feel good. It's a very abundance feeling. Therefore, if you're putting out that abundance when it comes to money, more abundance will come to you. I've been in seasons of my life, and I'm sure a lot of people have, where you get a little bit of money and you try and hoard that money. You try and hold on to it because you're scared that it's going to go away. Well, what do you think you're attracting? You're attracting scarcity. You're not allowing the flow, the natural flow of abundance to flow to you. So I think it's really important for viewers, while we're on the topic of money, to really understand what your relationship with money is, what programs are in there that aren't conducive to money, that are probably operating and you're not even conscious to it. How do you treat money? That's why gratitude is so important, and doing our best so when you receive compensation, or you get a promotion, or you get a big win in your opportunity, you celebrate it and you're grateful for it, right? If money was given to you as a present, and you didn't thank the individual for giving you that money, and you weren't grateful for him, would that individual give you more money? Mm-hmm. Probably not.
Right.
Well, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, typically works that way as well. So money is important. It controls our life, whether we like it or not. So you might as well get really good at understanding it.
This spiritual person that I'm listening to, or this insight, where did this come from, if you don't mind?
Self-discovery and personal development.
Got it.
Just putting myself in uncomfortable situations, being an avid reader, being avid with consumption. Like, I am a product of the personal development space. I was a low identity kid that was trying to figure out his way in the world. And now I'm a little bit better than that, 10, 12, 13, 14 years later. But it was very intentional. It didn't happen by accident. I remember we're coming up on Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. I remember 22, 23, 24 years old, sacrificing 3 or 4 Halloweens in a row because I was home, focused on my business, focused on learning, focused on what I needed to do. And I realized that I was in a season of life where I needed to sacrifice something so other things in my life could get better. Now I'm going to go turn up.
There it is.
But you have to make those sacrifices, and you have to realize what your goal and your vision and what you're trying to accomplish. So personal development has been huge for me, dude. It's been able to change my conditioning, change my patterns, change my paradigm, and I'm nowhere near where I need to be. It's just the never-ending pursuit of your potential.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Super exciting.
So exciting. I wanted to ask, how do you feel, or how do you look at like work-life balance? Is that a real thing for you? Do you believe in it, or is it kind of just, it's unfortunate Gen Z or Gen X or whatever, this is like their number one thing of work-life balance? How do you view that concept?
It's a tough question because I don't even fully believe in the word balance in itself. Balance is hard to really conceptualize because I'd say my life is a little bit more balanced now, but there's times in your life where you can't be balanced. You know, anyone that's accomplished anything great, if you ask them, do they have a balanced life? They're like, no, they had seasons where they were working 90% of the time, or they were spending time with their kid 90% of the time in order to be a good parent. So I don't fully believe in balance. I believe in seasons. I believe in understanding the season you're in and executing that season accordingly.
Yeah.
For me, I do my best to blend my work and my lifestyle, and I created that by design. If I was working a 9 to 5, I think it would be a lot easier where you can kind of fully commit and clock in and do what you need to do during the day. And when you come home from 6 to 10 o'clock, right, you're completely clocked out and you're doing your thing. In entrepreneurship, it's a little bit harder because there is no start time and end time. It's all time. Yep. And I think it's a delicate dance that if you want successful everything, right? Success means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. If you would ask me what success was 10 years ago, it would have been monetary. Now success is not monetary. It's part of it, but it's definitely not the only thing. I wouldn't even say it's the most important thing. So learning that dance, which comes with trial and error, and doing your best just to fill all your cups. That's always my goal. It's like, how do I fill all my cups this week? My physical cup. Maybe that's a lot of pickleball. Maybe that's going to the gym 4 times. Maybe that's yoga. Maybe that's doing my cold plunge sauna. My relationship cup. Am I doing date night with my fiance? Am I actually being present at home with her and not being on my phone? Am I thinking about our relationship and not just thinking about what happened at work that day? Obviously business, making sure you're pouring into that cup, and also spiritual. You know, spiritual could be a lot of different things. Solitude, spending time with yourself, taking walks and deep retrospection, getting massages for me, like putting myself in situations where I can just be and turn myself off from the world is really, really important. So to answer your question, I'd say balance isn't real. Understand the season you're in. And if you're in a season where you could be a little bit more balanced, making sure you're hitting all the different cups.
That one was probably the best answer I've ever heard, because I'm more blunt and I just say, no, it's not real. You know what I mean? But I am this way. I'm wired this way where I'm in it. If it's work, I'm 100% in work. When I'm at home, it's 100% work. So that is where I say my work-life balance, right? I just give whatever I'm doing or creating on or with my family, they get 100% of that time, right? But I don't ever look at my life as like, oh, work-life balance. I shut it off. I'm going hard, just in a different sector. Are you like a big whiteboard person, or you use the calendar? And I'm asking you honestly just because I use my calendar like all day long. I have my lunches, I have my breaks, I have my meetings, I have my everything scheduled out, color coordinated. It's kind of weird. But yeah, are you like into tools, or how do you like?
Yeah, definitely into tools. You know, if you go to my home office, I have all my big things. I'm big into visualization as well. You know, more than tools, I have different pictures, the whole vision board thing, just really trying to put myself in the frequency and the life that I want to create. I love my calendar on my phone. I'm a slave to my calendar. You know, I heard this back in the day, but it's so true. You know, as an entrepreneur, you don't have a boss. Your boss is your calendar. Right. What goes in the calendar gets done. So I'm definitely a slave to my calendar. Anything that goes in there gets done. I'm a firm believer in starting your day before it ends, meaning before I go to bed every single night, I have a little whiteboard next to my bed, and I write down my key things that I need to get done the next day. So when I wake up, I don't have to think about it. I just take a picture and I go execute. So the same reason Mark Zucks and Steve Jobs were the same shit every single day, because they don't want the mental fatigue, the decision fatigue of focusing on minuscule tasks. They just want to keep their energy for the big tasks that they're trying to create. So to some degree, doing something like that. And yeah, I have this new app. It's called Dayflow that I really enjoy. I don't know if you heard about it, but it basically takes your calendar and puts it into a to-do list form. So it's nice being able to like get those little dopamine hits by crossing stuff off. So tools are important, dude. I mean, the more that I see different people win, being organized and being thorough is not the most important thing, but it's important. It's important to understand what your day looks like, being effective with your day, being organized, not being all over the place and scattered, because it just allows you to show up a little bit more effective. So all the tools that people need, totally support it.
That little whiteboard trick at the end of the day, I'm going to steal that just so you know. But I totally understand and agree with it because, like you said, being able to see what do I have to have listed out for the day, it just makes it so much easier. And I feel like just like as a man, it could just be a me thing, but I need wins. And the more wins I can stack up, I can go knock down bigger ones, right? It's just like uplifting and empowering myself. It just works for me. So I love it. Dayflow. I'm going to check that out too because I've never heard of it. Yeah. I want to segue a little bit into this sector that you're in of the podcast world with Millennial Millionaire, dude. Was that just a natural progression, or were you like sick and tired of being on the road and being a keynote speaker and you're like, I want people to come to me, my house, I want to have the structure and the setup how I want to communicate with people? Could you speak on that a little bit?
It was a pretty natural progression, dude. So around probably like 3 years ago, I was like, okay, I need to start creating content.
Okay.
I tried to avoid the online game for a while because I was one of those guys that are like, I'll focus on making my real life cool, not just my online life. And I realized that was a very limiting belief. So I started making talking head videos. I started creating content because I knew that in today's world, your quote unquote resume is now your social media profile. And brand is so important. You know, I grew up with the Gary V's and all these people that just hammer you about your personal brand, your personal brand, your personal brand. So I said, okay, let me start making content. I'm pretty good at this sales training, mindset training already. Let me just start making content. Did that for about a year. Didn't love it. It felt a little bit more of a job and a little bit unauthentic. So I said, okay, well, what can I do to still get the same value of content posting, but make it a little bit more niche based on what I like? And that's kind of where the podcast came from. I said, okay, well, I can now, instead of just posting talking head videos, I can create a relationship with someone new. That I think it's one of the secret cheat codes of networking is podcasting. It's one of the few spaces, few containers that you can have an uninterrupted conversation with someone. We're not checking our phones. We're not thinking about other things. A vacuum of uninterrupted conversation for an hour and actually create a relationship. Right. So I said, I like that. I like networking. I like meeting cool people. And then I could take the long format and chop it up and post my short-term content. So it was almost kind of like killing two birds at one stone. So that's kind of where it started, dude. Yeah. I started in my house for the first like 20 episodes, had a little home office and my personal videographer. And then I realized, okay, I don't want random people coming to my house all the time. So now I'm in a studio and now we're on episode, I think, 92, 93. And it's been cool, dude, because, and you can relate, probably the first 15 guests I had, I knew previously. Yep. The rest have been complete strangers, cold market that I now have a relationship with, which was really my purpose. Yeah. A lot of people ask me, like, what's the purpose of the podcast, Stephen? Are you trying to monetize? Are you trying to be the next Logan Paul? I'm like, I mean, if that happens, that's a byproduct. Great. It's probably not, but who knows? I'm not going to put a ceiling on it, but it's really just to like add value to the marketplace with the content that we're posting, but really just increase my Rolodex of like-minded individuals. Because if me and you, DeAndre, are at a networking event, maybe we meet, maybe we hit it off, maybe we dab up and we connect on social media. And that's usually where it ends. Right. Where now I actually have a platform that I can then use that relationship and take it a lot further. Right. Because after the conversation, chances are now you have a higher level of rapport and there's something there to potentially create some magic with in the future.
Now that you got past when you did get past your first 15 guests were the ones that you knew, how did you go and get more guests? How did you reach out? Was it just DMing? Is it emails? Is it like a cold call list? Were you doing random pop-ups and network marketing? Like, hey, I have this. Like, how were you getting the next level of guests?
A lot of it was pretty organic. Word of mouth, super important. You know, the more you post about anything, the more you do something, the better you are about it, and the more people that will naturally attract to it. Different studios that I've been at, you meet different people. I've had podcast bookers reach out to me. We're fortunate because we live in Vegas, so there's always people flying in for a couple of days and doing podcast tours. So if you can get into the right algorithms with people, you just pop up on, and their job is to reach out to you and plug their guests with a good podcast. So I think all of the above, dude. I've cold DM'd a handful of people, like some of the bigger guests. I'll cold DM. I do it all organic. I don't have a booker. I probably should. But I don't. And it's just been a super organic passion project.
Yeah.
I don't put too much pressure on it. My goal is to do 3 to 4 a month. If I don't do 3 or 4, I'm not mad at myself.
Yeah.
Because it is more of a part-time hobby, passion project that could potentially turn into something big. But I'm taking the tortoise and the hare approach. I'm taking the turtle approach on it, which is a lot different. You know, there's a guy, shout out Sean Kelly, digital
Touch on it.
Digital Hour, you know, he's putting in, we work out of the same studio, and you know, he's at like close to 1,000 episodes. He's blown up. He's putting in 10 episodes a week,
Right.
10 episodes a month. So there's no perfect formula. It's really, again, getting clear on what you want, what your goals are, where you're at in your life. I put 95% of my professional focus on solar. So I'm not trying to be a professional podcaster. If it turns into that eventually, great. But it's really just, I want to have the most organic conversation, add as much value as I can from the marketplace, and be open on where it takes me.
I was going to touch on it because you've had some really big names in different sectors. Probably the ones that most people would know, like you just said, Sean Kelly, Jason Wojo. You had, I believe, Omar El Takori. So you've had really big household names or like specific niches, but like the peaks in those niches, right? One, how was it sitting with those people? Did you come into the conversation like, oh my gosh, I want to show that I am able to confidently have a conversation with them and show that I'm like intellectually as smart as them? Or was it, I want to be able to show the audience them and their skill and what value they bring to the market? One, and then two, what did you actually take from those conversations and learn like the most from them?
My intention going into every podcast is just to create the space for the audience to get a lot of value. And sometimes that looks a little different. Sometimes that's me talking a little bit more. Sometimes that's me just asking questions. Okay. It's also to have a really good conversation with them. And again, just to create psychological safety and allow magic to happen from the conversation. That's always the goal. Yeah. Do I hit it all the time? No, but I do my best. So how that looks is different based on guests and based on the synergy between them, but that's always the goal. What have I taken away? There's always strategic stuff that I take away from every guest that I try and look at from the business, whether I had a lot of real estate investors on there, like you said, a lot of niche people. I just had Misha Tate 2 days ago, right? UFC champion, which is sick. So I'm always similar to you, looking to take away something that I can apply to my life. Because again, that's one of the side benefits of podcasting. You get to sit with amazing people and essentially have them mentor, coach you, and try and get the gems from them. The other thing that I would take away, looking at more of a holistic approach, now that we're like 90 something episodes in, is everyone's stories are pretty similar. Where they started out, they had these aspirations, they've run into massive adversity, tons of rejections, tons of challenges, they overcome it, they get to this new peak, they get into another valley, so on and so forth. So I think more than anything, looking at the holistic approach of almost like the hero's journey, which it feels like most successful people go through. So next time you're in a valley, it's very helpful to have the insight of people that are ahead of you, aside you, behind you, to help not allow yourself to think that it's just you going through this. Because a lot of times when we're going through challenges, I'm reading a book right now, it's called Peaks and Valleys. It talks all about this. Okay. We tend to self-isolate and think we are the only one that is going through it. Our life is so hard. Why is this happening to me? If only this could be different. If only I could have done that. And when you can have so many conversations and hear so many people's stories, you realize you're not that unique. You know, your challenges isn't that special. Everyone's going through something, and everyone has gone through something, and most of these people have overcome it, and there's still plenty more to overcome, but that at least gives you the wisdom and the hindsight to not get into the soap opera of woe is me.
And it is exactly where I'm at in the stage of this in the podcasting world. Is I first started to do it trying to create a safe space and share for the audience in the world, like, nobody is better than you, right? Most people that you sit down with didn't grow up like a Kardashian with a silver spoon in their mouth. Like they had adversity, they struggled, they overcame, they had wins, they had losses. And I just want the everyday person to be like, you can do this too if you apply yourself or if you just don't quit, right? Kind of like Hormozy, you know what I mean? Like he's gonna outwork everybody and break Guinness World Records. But that's what initially this started to be for me. And the more guests that I had on, like you were saying, the story is very similar, right? And then when you get to a different level, you just take way greater losses. And that inside of itself could be even scarier or a bigger impact because you weren't prepared to get to this level, right? So even imagining a bigger loss could be incredibly overwhelming to another extent. And I feel like that's where I'm at right now with this in podcasting is I want to be able to not only share like the background and the history and the wins and the losses for my guests and be able to allow the audience to see that, but there's more. Like if you keep going and tapping into yourself more, you have more to give literally until the end of your day, where it says, today I'm great, I'm going to be even better tomorrow, and then I should be better the next day if I'm better today, tomorrow. You know what I mean? So you saying that, I can see it and I can feel like your energy and your passion. I know they can't, but I can feel it sitting across from you, and it's powerful, dude. It's like a really nice magnetism that you have. It's cool.
Thank you, dude. Yeah, we put successful people on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Success could, again, financially successful, maybe successful in that relationship, right? Their marriage looks so great, whatever it is, we put the successful people on a pedestal. And the challenge with that is, and I still do it to this day, is when you're putting people on a pedestal, your belief goes down that you can accomplish it because you think they're doing something special or they are special, which 99% of the time is not the case.
Absolutely.
So when you're able to sit with these people, one of the benefits of podcasting or listening to a podcast as a speaker, your whole job as a speaker is to make the audience believe that they can do the same thing you did because they can.
Boom.
The best speakers are the people that you leave the room thinking, oh man, he's a normal person. I can do what he did. He's not special. The ones that put themselves in a special category make it not duplicatable for individuals, and they're not as impactful as the ones that can. So when we can take these highly affluent individuals off a pedestal and humanize them, it makes our level of belief increase, and the gap between where we are and where we want to be starts to shorten because we can then see what it's like to get there because there's someone else in real life doing it that is no better than us, no smarter than us. They put their pants on the same way we do. And it just allows you to take bigger action because the fear starts to dissipate a little bit because if one man can, so can you. So I think that's one of the benefits of podcasting as well. Now that we're chatting with it, you get to take these people off a pedestal and realize that if they can do it, you can as well. No one's that special in life.
Yeah.
Sure, there's people that have had advantages. Sure, maybe some people are dealt better hands than others, but you know, just like in poker, dude, you don't have to have the best hand to win. You just got to play the cards right.
And even some of the people that I've talked to, dude, that have like what I would look at as like, oh my gosh, I could never overcome that, right? It would be something that I've never gone through, would look like to me as a disadvantage. It was the catalyst to put them here and put them in a totally different spot. So it's really just overcoming, and the perspective and the way that you choose to look at things is powerful within itself, and it can just take you or break you, make you or break you. Going back to the podcast, you did touch on it a little bit. Does it depend on the guest, how you think the episode goes, or like the ebbs and the flows, or do you come into it like with a structure? Or and I'm asking this because, okay, Rogan, right? We all look at Rogan. He's been doing this for 15 years. He does what, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 episodes, right? He is a different type of interviewer. He's just having a conversation and people just going crazy tangents, but they also want to bring the shock factor to him because they're like, I'm on Rogan. This is my chance. You know what I mean? How do you view yourself, or how do you like structure your episodes? Is it guest based? Is it just how the conversation's going, or Q&A?
I always have a list of questions prepared, different topics, so I kind of understand where the conversation is going to go. Because again, most of these guests, I don't know them personally. Right. So I need to do a little bit of research and understand what are their strengths, ChatGPT is very helpful, right? Learning a little bit about their hot buttons and stuff like that. The best conversations, I notice, I don't look at that at all.
Yeah.
But there are some conversations, and maybe it's the guest, maybe it's just my synergy with the guest, that I will be looking at that if I feel like the conversation is like getting a little bit off of base. But my goal is always to go in there and have an outline, have a structure of where I want it to go, and hopefully allow the conversation just to naturally progress through the whole episode versus so Q&A. But my job, my intent again, is to extract as much value from that individual as possible, right? My theme of my podcast isn't to entertain. I hope I try to entertain during it, but it's not for entertainment. It's not to make you laugh. It's to hopefully make you a better person after listening to it, make you inspired. That is really my goal. So my goal is to extract as many gems as possible through the conversation. And if the conversation flows and we can laugh, that is all a cherry on top. But I think it is guest dependent. It really is. I'm sure some of it is me dependent. If I show up my best self, then usually I can guide the conversation in a way and be the right facilitator. And it's always fun, because you never know where the conversation's going to go. And some guests are better than other. Some guests have done a lot more of this content communication, where other guests have just created something really cool and they don't really get to use that communication muscle much. So it's almost kind of like you having that dead fish that you're trying to extract from. So it varies, but the beautiful thing about it, I'm becoming better every single episode as well, because I have to be that chameleon to facilitate, guide, and get the conversation to where I need to be, regardless of who's on the other side of it.
How do you feel like you're doing at it?
I feel like I'm doing really well, dude. And again, I feel like I had a leg up because even though I've never been a podcaster before, I've been in the communication game for 13, 14 years. So I understand body language, I understand subtleties, I understand how to create space and how to create that magnetism. So I feel like I'm doing better than most, and I've gotten good feedback on it. But again, it just depends on the measuring stick that you're taking.
Yeah.
Again, like I feel like we've grown pretty organically, but it's nothing crazy. I'm not putting any real effort into monetizing or growing it outside of just putting out content.
Right.
And that's some feedback for me. If I really want to take this to the next level, as there's a game that needs to be played. It's not as easy as just like getting good guests and having good conversation. There's a lot more on the back end that needs to go into it if you want to blow up and go viral and start getting more subscribers and views and likes and all the things. And I just don't care that much, if I'm being fully real.
Yeah.
I just don't care. I just want to continue to do what I'm doing, outlast everyone else, continue to be consistent with my episodes, bring in quality guests, quality conversations, and see where it takes me.
Dude, I think that was the most authentic. I mean, I've had some really good guests say some really authentic things. That I feel like has been the most authentic thing to ever be said inside the studio. So that was really, really cool.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, that was awesome. Where do you already said you really don't care too much where you can take the podcast. Wherever it goes is where it ends up, and that's a beautiful thing within itself, because it allows it to be natural, but it takes the stressors away. And that's what I found out when you take the stress off something. And again, this doubles back to like the team building, right? Being able to delegate and give other people jobs and tasks and wear different hats. Since you've taken the stress off of the podcast, where do you see yourself going the next 5, 10, 15? And if you want to interject with the solar, obviously after this huge acquisition, what's the future hold for you, brother?
Yeah, plans are to continue to dominate in solar for the next 3-5 years. However that looks like. Now that we have this new acquisition, we are now tied to a publicly traded company. So our direct effort increases the stock, which as a byproduct increases the dubs for everyone involved with it. So that's the newfound invigoration of having a bigger game that can be played. That's on the solar side. That's going to continue to be my main focus. Speaking is something that I'm a little bit newer to outside of the direct sales space that really fuels me up. If anything, the podcast is more of a credibility piece for the speaking long term, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So I want to continue to get better at speaking. I want to continue to find better opportunities. Eventually, it'd be cool to get paid consistently for speaking outside of kind of the normal direct sales space. because that's something that you can do for the rest of your life. You know, when you look at athletes and you look at some people's careers, there's a lifespan to it. You know, the average MMA fighter retires, I think, at like 36 years old, 37. And they have to figure out what they want to do with their career. Hopefully they have a big enough brand like Misha does, or someone of that stature, to then have other businesses when you're outside. We're speaking something you can do till you're 80 years old, 85 years old, 90 years old, if you have the energy to do it. And it just really does fuel me, and it's a lot of fun. So it's going to continue to explore the piecing side of my professional life, and start putting myself out there more, start getting a little bit better, start bringing in resources to help me craft an actual business around it, and not just kind of a hobby. And continue to just live life, dude. Continue to live life, focus on experiences, focus on joy. You know, for the first like 3 or 4 years of my solar career, I sacrificed everything for the business. I didn't want to go out. I didn't really want to make new friends. I didn't want to really do anything other than, like, I was on a mission, almost like you're going on a tour in Iraq or a tour in Afghanistan. You're on a mission for a period of time to accomplish a certain objection, and then once you're done, you can then go home to your family and enjoy your life. That was really me for a while. And I still have that same work ethic and hunger and desire, but I also now do realize that business and money isn't everything. It's important. It's not everything. So I want to continue to just be a better husband, better eventually father, and just continue to evolve in all areas. And I think the more I focus on my personal life as well, the more the business will thrive.
I normally try to end my episodes, man, with this one singular question. I ask the guest, if everything on the internet was wiped away, if everything was completely scrubbed of everything based off Stephen Cohen, millennial millionaire, all of your speaking talking points, your talking head back in the day, what would you want to leave the audience with if you had a 30, 45-second clip of A, who you are, but B, what do they need to focus on, or what do they need to do to make themselves successful or make themselves better?
I'd say that success is a choice. It's not something that you're given. It's not something that's esoteric. It's not something that only a few fortunate people get. It's a choice that anyone can make that decision if you have enough desire. I'd say follow the golden rule. Treat others like you'd like to be treated. I think too many people in business believe that you have to lie, cheat and steal, or cut corners, or burn people, or be out of integrity in order to make it, when at least for me, that hasn't been true. I feel like I've been able to do decently well for myself without compromising my integrity, without worrying that there's people out there that are talking bad about me. And I think that is something that is important, to staying in character, staying in integrity. And I'd also say that you only have one life. You know, Drake said it best, YOLO. So really getting intentional is the life you're currently living, not just from a financial standpoint, but your life, your business, your family, the place you live, the environment that you have, the friends you have in your life, your lifestyle. Are you happy with it? Are you satisfied with it? And if you're not, good, do something about it. Make a change. Start taking those 1% changes, and eventually you'll wake up one day and you can actually say yes to that question, that you are satisfied with your life and you enjoy yourself. And it's so sad because I've seen a lot of my family, a lot of people in my life who are older that are just stuck with regret. And the quotes are there all the time, you know, and an ounce of discipline is way better than pounds of regret. And that's one of the things that scared the shit out of me. It scared me being 40, 50, 60, 70 years old and looking back at my life and having a lot of regret, and not being in the situation where I can do the things that I want and take care of my family and live life to the standard that I believe that everyone should live life in America in the 21st century. So I would say do a little bit of future thinking, figure out what you want, reverse engineer it, and make sure you're doing everything that you can not to wake up in 40 years from now and have that weight on your shoulders.
Please let the people know where they can find you, what you got going on in the future, and how they maybe can connect with you or join the Sunder team, brother.
Stephen Cohen on Instagram. I'm super active on there. If you want to check out the company, it's joinsunderenergy.com. Check out the podcast, Millennial Millionaire, on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast. Would love to connect with anyone in your audience, whether they want to get into the solar game, learn a little bit more, or they just want to check out the content, dude.
This one, honestly, I knew was going to be an absolute pleasure, and I want to give all the praise and thanks to you, dude. This one for me meant a lot just because of our backgrounds being so closely like intertwined, and we do have acquaintances that are share the same friends. So I knew that this one was going to be really powerful. If anyone was paying attention, I put my phone down a long time ago, so there wasn't one staged question at all with this one. This one was really, really fun for me, man. So I want to.
Likewise, dude.
With that being said, I hope that this one was an absolute pleasure and a gem and a jewel for you guys as much as it was for me. Stephen Cohen literally breathed life into me today. So I hope that you were able to take a little bit of that and you can use it for your own life. And don't ever forget to double down on yourself, double down on your dreams, double down on your aspirations and your inspirations. If nobody in your life believes in you, you believe in yourself and you can make it happen. That's today's episode.